all the way down here from New York just to be here with our community, and we are so grateful to have her. Denne Norris is the editor-in-chief of Electric Literature, winner of the Whiting Literary Magazine Prize. She is the first Black openly trans woman to helm a major literary publication. An Out 100 honoree, she has been supported by MacDowell, Ten House, the Convilio Center for African American Fiction, and appears in McSweeney's American Short Fiction and Zora. She is co-host of the critically acclaimed podcast Food for Thought and holds an MFA from Sarah Lawrence College. Please give her a round of applause.
Hi. It is really incredible to be here. I have known Courtney and Rachel for, we won't say how many, but it's been quite a few years, and just to watch what you've built and what you've done is incredible. And on another note, I also run a creative nonprofit, and these times are deeply, deeply uncertain and scary. And if you believe in the work that we are doing, please do everything you can to support us, whether it's volunteering your time, contributing funds. Many of us are losing funds because it is the artists and the writers who are the ones who record the truth of what's happening among the powerful in our society. I'm going to read from my novel, When the Harvest Comes. It was published a week ago today. Yeah, 14 years writing and editing this book, so I hope you like it. And there are copies available for purchase in the back. Please buy them so that Random House continues to want to publish me. And I would be happy to sign copies after the event, but I'm so excited to hear the rest of the readers. I'm very excited. I'm going to read from the first chapter and then skip ahead a little bit to the fifth chapter. I don't think I need to give you any context really going into it. I'll just say chapter 1, and then I'll say chapter 5 when it's time to move there. Okay, and I'm just going to, yeah, I think this is good. 1. Davis Josiah Freeman is perfectly safe. He lies flat on his back, legs spread, ankles in the air, sweating from the heat of Everett's body on top of his. He revels in Everett's power, the strength of his arms, the hardness of his chest, and the tuft of dark hair that fans out from his navel. Davis loves the softness of that hair against the hardness of Everett's body, like a window through which he could almost touch Everett's soul. Davis aches when Everett pushes deeper. He whimpers, then opens. He would be willingly consumed by Everett, swallowed whole if it were possible. He places one hand on Everett's chest, the other gently on his neck, and pulls him down, eyes meeting eyes, lips parting for lips. When Everett is inside him, Davis becomes another thing, a being both powerful and delicate, animal, yet celestial. Everett is uncomplicated in his manliness. The depth of his voice is penchant for bourbon and stout, the sheer size of him, both height and broadness. He becomes beastly during sex, and with any other man it would scare Davis. But with Everett, he need not be fearful. Davis looks up at the way Everett's eyes have gone slack, almost milky white, his pupils having rolled to the back of his head. In some ways, Davis envies Everett this existence, moving through the world with the easy confidence of a man who is always in charge, always sure of himself. He is passionate and unafraid of a fight. Davis knows that with Everett by his side, he gets to live a particular kind of freedom. He can be silly, he can be naive, he can have a tank full of sugar, as he'd once heard the Reverend say. Davis can do this because he is loved and desired, which means he is protected. His breath catches when Everett takes his wrists, pulls them up. Sorry.
We're coming.
Sorry.
sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
It was beeping me in the back, and I was waiting. I was like, please hold out.
No worries.
It's the best mic in the house, I promise.
No worries. It's perfect because it takes my nerves down a notch.
Perfect. You're doing wonderful.
Thank you.
This is
Actually,
Shelby, everybody.
wow, this is happening.
Go ahead,
Thank you,
go
Shelby.
Yes, lubricate. There's water under here too. Yeah.
Oh my God,
Exactly.
perfect. Thank you. When you're on book tour, cough drops become a food group.
Oh yeah.
I've had 5 since I got here. Okay. Okay. His breath catches when Everett takes his wrists, pulls them up over his head, and brings them together, binding him to the bed. Everett lowers his chest until their torsos meet. He buries his lips in Davis's neck, breathing in the perfume with which Davis carefully dabbed himself that evening. He nibbles, Davis moans, and Everett thrusts deeper, rougher, his body now slapping hard against Davis, who shudders, then whimpers again, his voice turning up on the final syllable as though the name, Everett, is a discovery, both question and answer. He arches his back, opening himself more fully. Everett peers into his eyes, then spits into his mouth. Davis feels his flesh come live, the tips of his fingers burn, trees turn to ash. Everett is anywhere, everywhere, his presence heard and felt with the matter-of-factness of air, trees, water. He fills Davis, and he fills the room, with every movement more frenzied than the last. He drives Davis to bite his bottom lip, to clench the sheets. Davis convulses, and when he comes, fingernails digging into Everett's back, he considers this. He could not escape this man if he needed to. He is not strong enough to fight Everett off, not quick enough to move from underneath him. He loves the vulnerability of this, the theoretical danger in their union. He thinks all the time of that vulnerability. In a way, it turns him on. It's an illusion, of course. Everett would never harm him, but he loves it nonetheless, and he knows Everett loves it too. In 24 hours, they will be married. Davis wants to stay right where he is. He wants to remain under Everett, held by Everett for as long as possible. He wants to revolve around this beastly man like he is the sun. After Everett comes, groaning, panting, the hair on his body slick with sweat, he lowers himself down to the bed, arms encircling Davis, lips breathing warm air along Davis's neck, where he rests. "Stay inside me," Davis whispers. His voice is shaky, his body still trembling. He closes his eyes and turns to his side. Everett nods and continues kissing his neck and shoulder. He loves the way Davis fits so easily in his arms, body short and slight, golden skin soft and clean, and so damn pretty. He runs a hand up and down Davis's leg. "You were tossing and turning in your sleep." Everett looks down at Davis. He knows not to ask too explicitly. Davis has a lot of pride. He lets Everett in when he's ready and not a moment sooner. "I'm sorry, did I wake you?" Davis runs his fingertips along Everett's arm, his breath silent. Everett kisses him again, then shakes his head. "I'm used to it." He pauses, listening as waves lap the shore. "But you kept saying something I've never heard you say. Sunny boy, sunny boy." Davis brings Everett's hand to his mouth. "He called me that." He kisses the pads of Everett's fingers. "Who?" Everett holds Davis tighter. "He used to say I slipped out easy like I was covered in Crisco on the sunniest day of the year." "Your father," Everett says. "The Reverend," Davis rolls his eyes. "It was a lie, you know." Everett feels a chill move between them. Davis gazes through the open window, the curtain blowing in the paltry autumn breeze. "I hated him calling me that. My mom almost died because of me." "It wasn't because of you," Everett says. Davis shrugs, then turns over, facing Everett. "I should call you Sunny Boy." He sits up, planting both hands on Everett's cheeks. "You're like a planet, my gravitational pull. I couldn't get away if I tried." He lays down again, resettling into Everett's arms. "Do you wish she was coming to the wedding?" Everett holds Davis tighter, their bodies fully flush against each other. What Davis wishes for is the ability to make himself even smaller, daintier. "If I'd wanted him to come to the wedding, I would have invited him. Everett brushes his nose along Davis's neck, his voice a whisper. It seems like you were dreaming about him. Well, I don't remember it. You're the one who brought it up. Davis looks out through the window upon the Montauk beach as earthbound snowflakes, glittering pink and white, slowly make their way. They won't last, most won't even reach the ground, merely dancing in the sparkling moonlit sky. Davis wraps Everett's hand in both of his, holding it tight to his body. He tries to match his breathing to the rise and fall of Everett's chest. Just gonna take a little water. 5. Davis listens as Everett retreats down the hall, his footsteps receding into the distance. He moves to the window, watching as Everett bounds from the front door into the commotion of his brothers and father. He touches his fingers to his lips, watching as they envelop Everett. The Caldwell men are enthusiastic. Any greeting with them includes a bear hug and a heavy-handed thump on the back. Though he can't make out anything they say, Davis hears the clamor of their voices, then their bodies as they take off running. He backs away from the window after a few seconds, grateful that he wasn't spotted. Davis loves watching them greet Everett. Their joy, their love is infectious. He wants to breathe it in, wrap it around himself. And yet it's also punctuated with a sense of loss felt somewhere in his own chest, a sharp, momentary tightening. Davis isn't greeted by them in the same way, hasn't been since his first visit when he was entirely overwhelmed at the bigness of their affection. And Everett, in a moment of deep perception, found the words to kindly ask them to tone it down a few notches for Davis, who was new to all of them, and who didn't come from a family like theirs. Davis holds his coffee mug close to his nose in both hands. He wants to feel the steam rising to his skin. There's a particular waterfront restaurant, the Marina, where the Caldwell men will have breakfast before any other customers arrive. There's a booth they love that will almost certainly be free. They'll sit, they'll talk, they'll eat, they'll laugh, and though Davis wonders what goes on at these breakfasts every time he accompanies Everett to Montauk, and though he is always invited to join, he never does. Neither does Charlotte, Everett's mother, nor Courtney, Everett's sister-in-law. It's understood that it's for the boys, and Davis's feeling, which he's never revealed to Everett, and which he doesn't mind because he has no interest in running, is that it's not for him. Soon enough, his best friend Phoebe, whom they've hired as their photographer, will arrive. Shortly after, so will their other best friend Zora, to help with makeup and styling. They've known one another since the first day of freshman year at Juilliard. As far as Davis is concerned, other than Everett, they're his family. Phoebe insists on taking pictures of him getting ready, but he wants to be showered and shaved by the time she arrives. Standing in front of the mirror, he looks at his face. There is, around his lips, lining his jawbone and covering his neck, the faintest stubble. He hates to look at it, to even acknowledge its existence. To do so feels like humoring some kind of optical illusion. He hates the darkness of the hair against the hue of his skin, hates how it sometimes curls underneath before puncturing the surface where it grows. Davis hates that regardless of how recently he's shaved, the beard shadow is incredibly easy to spot because his hair is so dark and so coarse. He hates how the new hair sometimes gets infected, never puncturing the skin at all, merely causing painful, ugly, pus-filled bumps all over the bottom half of his face. And of all things, he hates the amount of time and intention it takes for him to manage all of this if he wants to be clean-shaven and clear-skinned, which of course he does. Zora has taken the liberty of matching his skin tone with a foundation. As Davis looks in the mirror, he can barely contain his excitement. What will it look like, he wonders, his face freed from any trace of unwanted hair. Zora has also promised to wax any strays and to make his cheekbones pop. In high school, it took a long time for him to grow facial hair. Davis made it well into his senior year without ever being asked to shave, until one day it started coming in, and the only reprieve from the hatred he felt was that no one seemed to notice it. Not the Reverend, not Olivia, and not the teachers at school. He'll never forgive the boy, a blonde baseball player named Cub, whose parents had purchased a brand new SUV when he turned 15 and hired someone to drive him to and from school until he passed his driver's test, who pointed out to the dean of students that Davis wasn't shaving like the rest of them, and that he was therefore in violation of the dress code. He was given a demerit, returning the next day clean-shaven, his formerly flawless skin now covered in painful bumps, barely concealing ingrown hairs, all over the bottom half of his face. But this is his wedding day, and by letting it grow out just a tad, he has timed it perfectly. He begins by washing his face, the running water and the fear of a bath offending Bam Bam. Davis glances behind him as Bam Bam runs for cover, crawling under the bed. Sorry, friend. Your daddy likes me clean-shaven. As soon as Davis says it, he hears the lie. Everett doesn't care if he sports facial hair or not. He couldn't care less. Everett thinks he's beautiful no matter what. It's him. It's Davis, whose compulsion to look as young as possible and as pretty too dictates so much of his life, causes him so much inner turmoil. He turns on the shower, knowing it'll take a few minutes for the water to heat up. He begins by covering the bottom half of his face with shaving cream scented with lavender and vanilla. It's thick, a true cream, meant to moisturize and soften the stubble before he shaves it. Davis massages it into his skin, enjoying the sharpness of the stubble against his fingertips and the feeling of blood flowing to the area. He loves the scent of the vanilla and the calming effect of the lavender. He closes his eyes, takes a deep breath, thinking back to a different mirror and a different face. 7 years ago, he was soaked as he ran from his parked car with his backpack and viola into Olivia's building. It was a stone's throw away from the Cleveland Clinic, back in the years when she was doing her residency. Charlie, the older doorman, friendly with the bowl of butterscotch candies on his desk, didn't say anything when Davis arrived, just phoned up to Olivia's apartment to let her know her baby brother was on his way up. When he stepped off the elevator, she was poking her head through the front door, her bonnet adorned, nightgown clad. With each step, he admonished himself, don't cry, don't be a fucking crybaby. And then she hugged him, pulled him inside, and his tears fell. Her questions were constant. What happened? Why are you here? He hadn't wanted to make a scene. Davis takes the blade, wets it, and begins to shave. From the bottom of his neck, he shaves upward until he reaches his chin. He fans out from the center, shaving up to the jawbone. For the hatred he feels towards his facial hair, the actual act of shaving feels nice, almost like a precise, incisive massage. He moves quickly, by now an expert at this. When he finishes with the neck, he takes a lighter touch to his cheeks, where his skin is more sensitive. As he shaves, his face transforms back to the face from that night so many years ago. His eyes are wider, brighter. His skin seems to catch the light. He can see his cheekbones. With every stroke of the blade, every flick of the wrist, the person he really is begins to peek through. At first, Davis was evasive when it came to his sister's questions. She fed him, made him some hot cocoa. She placed his bags on the bed in her second bedroom, handing him a plush towel, and sent him to the bathroom for a hot shower, all while asking again, what happened? Why are you here? Can't I just be here? You said I could come here anytime I needed to get away. I realize that as a teenager, you think your attitude is your God-given right, but please check it at the door. And yes, of course, you can be here anytime. I don't want to talk about it. He started the shower, turning the knob to the hottest it would go. As the mirror began to fog, he closed the door to the bathroom, her voice receding in the distance. We're not done with this. He spent a great deal of time in the shower that night, running soap several times over every part of his body. He held his hair directly under the water, its heat managing to loosen his muscles. When he stepped out, the tile floor shooting cold through his feet, he felt better. He stood in front of her mirror, studying his face, searching for answers that he already knew to questions that had already been asked. When he opened the bathroom door, she was sitting at the foot of the bed. I have a headache, he said. Olivia brought him some Tylenol and a glass of water, ice cold, just as he liked it. She sat in a chair in the corner and pointed to the floor in front of her. He sat with his back to her. She squirted some oil into her hands and began to massage his scalp. Are you being safe? Immediately the conversation became clear to Davis. He sensed resolve in her voice. You called the Reverend. I needed to let him know where you were and that you're safe. He tried to turn his head to look at her. Olivia, does the Reverend have a drinking problem? She kept her hands on the sides of his head, kept his face looking straight ahead. He felt it when she nodded. He's been sober for a long time, but yes, the Reverend is a recovering alcoholic. Why didn't anyone ever tell me? Olivia paused. The only person who would have told you is me, and it hasn't been an issue in so many years that I honestly never thought to tell you. Other than one slip-up, he stopped drinking before I was born. Well, he got drunk tonight. I know. I could tell on the phone. For a few minutes, she said nothing. Davis tried to focus on the feeling of her fingers moving around his head, now kneading his scalp, applying pressure to his temples. I've never seen him like that. I have, she said. Once, sort of. Davis nodded, not wanting to ask for any further details. I'm being safe, Olivia, I promise. He felt her nod again. So, you're gay? He smacked his lips, then nodded. Yeah. She leaned forward, bringing her body against his shoulder blades, her head close to his as she wrapped her arms around him. Okay, she whispered, as long as you're being safe. She sat back and continued massaging him, working her way up and over the crown of his head until her thumbs reached his hairline. Olivia? Yes? He told you about Jake. Yes, Davis, he did. Davis felt his voice catch in his throat. Did he tell you that he hit me? Olivia's hands, then massaging his face, stopped. No. Well, he did. Like what? He spanked you? Davis sighed. For a few seconds, everything was still. He listened to the light on the bedside table flickering, and the raindrops landing with authority against the roof of the apartment. Yeah, he said. He spanked me. She pressed her first fingers along his hairline and dragged them across his temples. You can stay here as long as you like. You two probably need some time apart. Sometimes Davis feels bad for not telling her the whole story. Sometimes he feels like a hero. His sister still has a relationship with their father because of him. In recent years, it seems she and the Reverend have grown closer. Davis wonders if his new life in New York City, which doesn't much include her, has driven Olivia to rekindle her sense of family with the Reverend. He supposes he can't blame her for that. But he and the Reverend always seem to float past each other. If she moves closer to one of them, the other will inevitably step aside, getting out of the way. As Davis sees it, his life has led him elsewhere, in a different direction. He hasn't set foot in that house since that night. He fled, took safe haven with Olivia until school ended, before running off to Vermont for a summer-long chamber music camp, then Juilliard directly from there for a bachelor's and master's, and as of this past June, his artist's diploma. All of it impresses upon him the weight of his journey to this moment. This is where he is. He gets to marry this man, be part of this family. He smiles. It's all about perspective, really. By now, the water is warm. He taps the razor against the sink, rinses it off, and steps into the shower. Thank you.
Thank you, Denne, and don't forget to buy Denne's book at the back of the room. She'll be signing after the readings tonight. And speaking of readings, we are now going to have readers come up and read for 2 minutes each. And we have so many readers, so readers, the only way this is going to work is if you actually only read for 2 minutes. Not 2.5, not 3, no announcements, no context. Just get up here, say what you got to say, and get off. Okay? If you're like, dang, when I pressed it, it was like 3, then you need to find a cutoff point and stop. Okay, Courtney's going to be timing you. She's going to be very awkward when you hit your time limit. And all everybody's going to be thinking about is how you're going over time and not what you're reading. Here's how it's going to go. We are not doing introductions. Every reader who comes up here, do your thing. You have exactly 2 minutes from the second you get up here until you're done. Then you pick up this program, which is right here on the podium, and you say the person who's right after you. Do not read their bio. Just say their name. As such, we're going to kick it off with our very own Courtney Sexton.
You took the program age.
I violated my own rule.
Yeah, don't take the program. People do that a lot. I got volunteer as tribute to follow Denne, so thanks. I'm going to break my own rule and give you a little bit of context because I am under 2 minutes. I'm not reading nonfiction, I'm reading poetry, which is to me nonfiction. But this first one is very drafty and dirty, so it is what it is. It's about a dude I met on the street the other day. David stopped me on the street to tell me about his meeting with King Charles. The meeting, he said, was in a garden that was good and assured me it was not poisonous. The Queen was there too. She took his hand, like this, he said, and then he took my hand and said, look, the colors, he said, they don't do that everywhere. It's not allowed. It was Passover, and in Pennsylvania the governor's mansion was burning while David spoke of law and books and the lines in our hands that made a triangle, a place where the shades intersected. Look! His hand waving to a cart of books on the corner, he told me he lived wherever there were schools of statutes, and that he'd see me again sometime. And this is called Nerves. When the weight of the body, of the world, gets me anxious, I feel it down to my vagina. Like this. There was once when we were young and we played the game of life. I spun the wheel that revealed some horrid fate, and I declared I'd rather sell my soul to the devil. That was also when we were Catholic, and I believed in a hell different from a body held suspended without respite. So my brothers threatened to tell on me, and I immediately felt the nervousness of guilt deep in my stomach, deeper than that, down to my uterus, and beyond that even, until a tingling sensation erupted just where a little pea might fall. For years still, I will pray that I did not mean it, and please could, if I was good, keep my soul. It probably is not so strange. That must have been how Eve felt after all. Tran.
Hello, hello. I'll be reading one piece tonight. It's titled, I Lose All of My Hair When I Fall in Love. According to my friend C, you'll know once you have found the perfect kiss. Q runs her fingers through my hair, holding clumps of curls as her hand exits. She leans in and I hold her by the waist. We break down in giggles before we kiss. A single bubble floats down U Street. I cannot find where it has traveled from. Children playing hopscotch on the sidewalk. Written in the last square is the word love. In the trash can of my living room, I can count at least 100 individual follicles. In the bathroom, I look in the mirror as I turn on the faucet, hoping that the drain doesn't clog. When she notices, is it equivalent to my asking, would you love me if I was a worm? A piece of chalk in one hand, a bubble wand in the other raised to his lips. A boy exhales. And, I think you...
Sorry, thank you.
Next up, Itoro Bassey. Oh, right.
How to give up being a good African daughter. Number 1, be born somewhere they weren't. Somewhere where you'll have the space to become more porous than they were ever allowed to be. Start in a place where saying good morning to everyone is not a way of life, where people who look nothing like you are the majority and could care less if you or your parents live or die. And since you're 9 and can't imagine death, you take everyone's ambivalence as proof that no one outside your parents will love you. So it's better to cleave to them, or as they've told you, obey them. And you accept that your parents are your wardens, deciding when you pray, eat, sleep, go outside. Inside those four walls you call home is their re-envisioned Nigeria. Jiffy is now stirred into boiling water in a saucer to produce substitute fufu because your mother knows you don't prefer the real taste, cassava or yam. Ashlen Renner.
This is the time I brought a pie to a gunfight. And I'm from North Carolina. This pie is the best pie I ever made. I won't throw it like a frisbee because my brother said I can't throw to save my life. I hugged the pie to my granny Christmas sweater, and it took 3 hours to core the apples, sour fingers slipping on shears, stirring and sugar until mixture turns into syrup. Buttery crust flaking with the scrape of a knife. Shots echo through the concrete sarcophagus of the Metro Center. It sounds like the train ran over one of those electric scooters, 5 of them. Bap, 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 bap. People are screaming, but you can't shoot someone holding a pie. It's not allowed. Anyway, I run. I stabilize my body like a chicken's head for this pie. Don't push me. A woman in a long blue coat is clacking concrete in kitty heels and sobbing. Quit that. It ain't that bad. This happens all the time. She must have skipped the mass shooter drills in school. She probably wasn't there when the guy with the BB gun ran through the courtyard and shot out a window. She must have missed the rifle-spiked boats headed toward the bird sanctuary, the squawks of choking egrets. Or when the Proud Boys shot up some substations in my hometown on Sunday. 14,000 people and no power. Grandma had to fill her bathtub to flush the toilet. A suspect said they did it to stop a drag show, but none of the papers say so. They do say the sheriff prayed over her, though. Anyway, the metro gates are locked and the mob is shouting, "Please let us out." And I don't shout because I'm too busy working out the physics of getting this pie to the other side unscathed. I can't throw it because my brother says I throw like a tilt-a-whirl. The man in front of me is desperately pressing his Metro card to the scanner, like keeping the blood inside an open wound, because those things can't scan shit, and even on a good day. The triangular plastic doors release its sideways teeth. I rush after the man, pie pushing him forward. The gate chomps down on my thigh. Fuck it, I'm going over. I will do transit misdemeanors for this pie. My legs... All right. Next up is Buddah Desmond.
All right, this is called We Are Art. We are art. Art is us. It simmers in the marrow of our bones. It twirls in the curl of our hair. It dances in our spirit. It stirs and uplifts our souls. It floods our cells. It seeps through our pores. Our auras ooze with it. We speak it, we sing it, we live it, we breathe it. Everything we do, everything we create is art. We've transformed all that life has given us into works of art. Though our experience has been marred by the unthinkable and the unspeakable, we remain unbreakable. We art victorious. It might be new to you, ain't new to us. We've been on. Art is us. We are art. Thank you. Up next, Hope Jorgensen.
Kate turned her head slowly, a rabbit caught in a trap. A humanoid creature stood above her, a pale, emaciated, almost person clothed in faded scraps. There was rich red blood clotted on its thin mouth and long neck. Bright copper hair curled and curled on its head. the only part of it that seemed alive, like Kate's own hair until she started dyeing it black. Geo barked in her arms frantically. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, she thought. She was supposed to save her dog. Yet now her mind could barely comprehend the strange entity that breathed in her ear, like something out of one of her horror movies. The creature hissed again, and its blank, lifeless eyes found hers. They were her mother's eyes, Kate realized. Blue like a June sky, yet lacking all her warmth. Razor-sharp canines flashed in the dark. There had to be some reasoning, some logic for this person before her. Was this a leaper? Some rabid person gone mad? No. Vizheki, the vampire, the creature her mother swore was lurking behind every shadow, every closed door. She's finally found us, her mother had said. She'd been right. She'd always been right. Kate wished she'd actually listened to her. The vampire hissed into Kate's ear, the breath as cold as death. Koko zanak sumanak. A pinch and then nothing. Kate could only hear fervent gulping in the frailness of her own breaths. She was aware of a weight that dropped from her arms and barked. Arms wrapped around her instead, the sensation as familiar as her mother's embrace. The night grew darker and darker till all she could see was copper hair and silver stars. She felt strangely at peace. The stark terror was a distant memory. All was numb. All was calm. There went the feeling of her fingers, next her toes, then her limbs. Why had she been so scared? This was calm. This was peace. This was safe. She was free from the hunger that stalked her every waking moment. Kate couldn't remember the last time she'd been this calm. She couldn't remember much at all. Would it be that horrible to die? Next, Bex Pachl.
Setting my own timer, but I'll also listen to yours. This is called family therapy. When my mother, 3 brothers, and I arrive for family therapy, we find a rundown building on the outskirts of town. Our therapist leads us to a dingy basement. It appears the space we seek, perhaps the resolution we seek, requires climbing downstairs, then through a long corridor, and eventually turning right. I learn later that there is a door that allows you to walk right in from the parking lot. But I suspect our therapist believes in the theatrics, the dark descent into our pain. After the family therapy session, I sit outside of my family's back porch, listening to the echoes of frogs chirping in a melodic chant. The frogs alternate notes as if they are translating some great divine code, or perhaps just reminding one another that they are not alone. The summer is getting cooler and it's almost nightfall. My brothers have not cooled down since family therapy. This is context in the piece. One of them texts me, I don't think trying to convince me to believe my father is a rapist is being vulnerable. Just then, though, a frog hops into my view, staring at me with impassive, cool eyes, small enough to cup into one hand. I wish this frog was a messenger, that someone, somewhere, has sent me this creature, assuring me that I'd heal, move on from these years of suffering. The frog stays rooted in front of me. He is silent. Speak, I beg the small frog. He looks at me with his tiny green saucer eyes, observes my finger coming down towards the skin, and allows me to touch his cool body one time. I think, in passing, he must want something from me, but he hops away as quickly as he came. Thank you. And the next writer, Chet'la Sebree.
Hi, my name is Shayla. Chet'la Sebree. It's a tricky one. You did great. I'm just going to read one sonnet in honor of the fact that it was just Easter. I'm going to read a poem about Eve masturbating. Genesis. Eve hid behind fig leaves, from which I learned shame about masturbation, but only do it under the cover of darkness, distort my pleasure from God. Good girls don't touch themselves raw in the night, and I used to want to go to heaven. With the same outstretched palm, I'd search for glossolalia and labia. I'd imagine clit slipped against apples wax velvet, heartbeat hoved, nipples pricked, moan making madrigal as drool pulled in bottom lip. I believed I was hellbound for this, pouring anointing oil between my legs, for praising her with as much fervor as the manger-born Savior. Up next, Dan Knowlton.
All right, this is something new. Drek sits in the clinic waiting room, listening to a cacophony of screams. It took him several visits before he could calm the automatic triggering of fight or flight, Now the sounds spark something different, anticipation. His med port on his upper left arm has begun to crust at the edges. His skin seems undecided about whether to reject the foreign material or incorporate it into his body. It looks a mess, but he isn't here to be pretty. Last week, Drex finished threading his arm from fingertips to elbow, and he waits his turn, fully healed, ready for the chair. Dr. Hands calls him in, and Drex feels the familiar tingle of electricity run through the nerves of his arm as the doc attaches the wires to his port. Drex thinks of Dr. Hands as the perfect jockey. He's willing to take risks to get his patients where they need to go, but he always knows when to stop short of catastrophe. The monitors come to life, ticking off Drex's vitals. "How far are we going today?" asked Dr. Hands. "Maybe a minute longer than last time. I've got new thread. Want to see where it takes me." When the procedure starts, the pain rings Drex like a bell. A low, dull feeling that picks up in volume as it reverberates from his arm and bounces back in on itself. It feels like a cleansing fire, like a revelation, like he could go on, but this is where language leaves him. He might be grunting or screaming, but he no longer hears himself. He's chasing after the point where his body transitions to meat, a slab of red, marbled white, quivering. When Drex comes to, he is in the recovery lounge with other patients, resting in a cushioned recliner, waves of endorphins like the sea carrying him gently to shore. He wonders about the others in the room. Are they all here for the same reason? All trying to get some control back over their bodies. Drex knows a woman who ran thread through both arms and both legs, ending close to her heart, extending to the base of her brain. Now she looks like an empty husk walking down sun-blasted streets, sweat lines dried to salt streaks. There has to be a better way, but Drex just doesn't want to find it. Up next is Angelina Morin.
I'm Angelina. No worries. Our mothers as red thread. Our mothers are protectors. My mom had a firm grasp on my wrist, her sturdy hand and calloused fingertips still and pinching as she clasped a red beaded bracelet onto me. She smiled and placed an identical bracelet on my sister. This will protect you from evil. I rubbed the smooth, small beads to instill the sentiment. I was too young to know evil yet. Mom teaches me that wishbones were made to dry out on windowsills, then to be broken with the pull of our pinkies. With greased and glistening fingers, she would excavate the bone with the precision of a surgeon, slipping her fingers into white meat to feel for the wish between neck and breastbone. In my cupped hands she placed it. It sat up like two arches on my palm. Carefully I washed it clean and perched it on the windowsill. First we wish. When the bone breaks, the one holding the longer bit has their wish come true. Pinky to pinky, I ask her how to win. There is no trick to it, baby. I wish every day. I wish as my ringlets of curls wave over candles, as my lips blow air like kisses onto dandelions, as coins spiral to the bottom of fountains, as my lashes stick to my freckles that friends so gently pluck to present to me. But I will not break the wishbone. I cannot bear the short end. My mom knows the future, but she does not believe in the certainty of destiny. One morning she told me that a pain struck her. She believed it to be a warning meant for me, that I would twist my ankle if I was not careful on my walk to school. She often had this instinct, this feeling of premonition. A part of her would ache and she would think of me, my sister. I was just a girl then. I believed in my mother. I stepped carefully in sparkling cherry sandals that day and the next. For all I knew, she spared me from every fall. Up next, DiValentino.
This is My Great-Grandmother Tells Us Why She Left Italy in 1953. Painful is the thorn thicket of voices, clamoring heavily over each syllable, the 10 pairs of dusty black boots, 2 harsh knocks, my child reaching for the door still in his night clothes, only to land in conversation with a rifle at his temple. My baby, a condemned man before his 4th birthday. Next up is Diana Ross.
Quick context, Mom's just called him and told him to come home. Technically, I was home, Chicago, where Candace and I had moved after we got married in Louisville in 1971. Candy was from a long line of Kentuckians for whom the 4 corners of the world had been limited to Dixie. Her blonde hair and light eyes were as exotic to me as my perennially tan skin was to her. We had both outgrown Louisville by the 1970s, and Chicago, the big city, beckoned. We jumped into our car with the just married letters still smeared across the back window and set off for the 6-hour ride north, looking for more space to spread our wings and find ourselves. We found a nice apartment in Pilsen, disguising ourselves among the influx of Mexicans settling into the neighborhood of longtime Eastern European residents. In Pilsen, I did find myself in the faces of other Mexicans and Central Americans who'd call me John but pronounce it John. "Speak English, y'all," Candy would say sweetly at first with a smile. Later, it became a little more forceful. "Speak English, John, I don't understand you." Finally, it became an angry murmur. "God damn it, speak English, y'all, this is America." We didn't last the whole of 6 years despite our still professed love. "I just don't fit into your world," Candy said to me the day she hightailed it back to Louisville. She wore a Mexican blouse with flowers embroidered in riotous colors, a parting gift from our neighbor. I didn't stop her because I couldn't define my world with thick lines. I was an immigrant. I was an American. I was neither here nor there. I could be everywhere. And yet there I was, nearly 4 years later, home in the same small 2-bedroom house that Candy and I had bought from an octogenarian Polish couple the year before we split. The neighborhood was increasingly Mexican. As a Costa Rican who had adopted an Anglo name and a navy blue passport when bell-bottoms were in high style, I was comfortable enough straddling the shifting demographic ground. The Mexicans didn't exactly claim me. Neither did the white Americans. But I felt I belonged. Thank you. Next up, Abi Newhouse.
Thank you. My context is post-Mormonism, Utah's nature, and climate change. Belief in climate change and how its effects ravage the Utah desert would also indicate that Utah is fallible, which is unacceptable to Mormon theology. Utah is the American Zion, the place where the Mormons ran for respite, a haven for their beliefs. Brigham Young led the pioneers to the Salt Lake Valley, claiming God told him this is the place to create something new. But it was still just a desert, and even if God picked it out for Mormons, it wasn't easy, and still isn't easy to live there. Colonizing Utah was a part of westward expansion, a part of manifest destiny, a part of ownership ideals that didn't consider what we were asking of the land. As Zion, Utah was supposed to be a bountiful, opulent place for God's people, and here it is now, on fire under mudslides inside windstorms full of toxins. This new climate change-ridden reality threatens the idea that the saints will be saved in the last days. And maybe Utah feels less like home because it was just an idea to me when I was younger. We bragged about living in 4 seasons each year, about the ease of our grid-like roads, about our proximity to mountains and snow. We rationalized Utah's negative aspects by repeating the way early pioneers engineered systems to make it livable. God was in the wildflowers, in the asphalt, in the sun beating down. It was a haven because it was intentional ignorance. We were cradled in our own delusion. Still, I mountain bike in Farmington, ending at the pond filled by mountain runoff. I hike into the mountain crags and find wild cherry trees. I wander the wetlands and watch ducklings swim between the grasses. I'm making up for all the times I retreated to my room, ignoring the fires around me. I'm looking at change directly. The waterborne pathogens in the pond, the Snickers wrapper and crushed beer can near the cherry trees, the signs indicating how high the water used to be in the wetlands. Home is and always has been a place of naive hope. Next is Harshi L.
This is called First Draft. I brew strong tea and peel oranges in the meantime. I water the plants, treading back and forth from the sink to the droopy mint, to the new fern, to the curry leaf, till each saucer pulls. In between, I pluck lines of poetry from midair, but they fall unfinished like strands of hair. At golden hour, I lie in wait, simmering. Warm sunlight filtered through green leaves is my favorite color. A mourning dove builds her own little nest on the Juliet balcony, just in front of the glass doors, flying to and fro with fibers and filaments. One day she doesn't arrive, leaving behind a palm-sized woven wisp. I note the slap of the ceiling fan against still summer night air. I sketch in sun-baked imagery, strawberry-scented sweat, scooped cantaloupe flesh, squeezed mango hearts. I sift through moonlight and stars and rifle pages, scattering pen ink, conjuring jasmine-scented nights, heaping adjectives onto sunset-pink memories. Nothing sticks. There isn't anything to say, no metaphor or simile that hasn't already been said, no vignette that hasn't already unearthed and explored nature or nurture, worry or wonder, pain or beauty. Scrawled script sits 6 feet under, encased in notebooks. Time capsules piled in a shadowy cabinet. A few make their way next to my armchair, cracked open to years past. I savor words like sliced persimmon on dreary days. This spring, a pair of mourning doves arrived to the Juliet balcony as if they already knew a nest was there, reinforcing the start from seasons ago, strand by strand. They pull apart the weakest bits and start over. I find remnants in the garden bed below. When the nest is complete, one dove wedges in and stays. In wind, in rain, in strong sun. They coo twice a day, calling to take over one another's shift. I glimpse chalk-white eggs in between the shuffle of wings. Morning, noon, night, one stays, looking out to the slowly greening trees or sometimes facing their reflection in the glass. I perch in my armchair, tea in hand, and watch them, marveling in the obscured eggshells calcifying over time, the heartbeats strengthening. I wait for something to emerge. Sutherland.
The first time Eddie got called a faggot, a grin threatened to crack his jaw in two. He'd been walking to a stand-up show with a cis friend when it happened. A stranger, shouldering past on the narrow sidewalk, looked at them both and saw 2 fruits. "Did you hear that?" Eddie asked once they turned the corner. His friend kept chatting like he hadn't spoken, but Eddie couldn't pay attention. A luscious warmth was melting through him. He felt, for once, seated inside his own body. Later, at a bar, his friend spied him zooming into every inch of skin in an internet FTM's picture. The caption was an indulgent couple of paragraphs. Let trans men be feminine, but Eddie wasn't there to read. He ogled at the hairy chest, the suggestion of abs, the drape of a deep-cut blouse. So elegant, so fuckable. His friend tilted the screen towards him, incredulous. "You want to look like that?" Eddie locked the phone and stayed staring at the black screen, sniffed loudly. "Well, yeah." His friend took the bait from him, looked away, exhaled an operatic sigh. "Why anyone would want to be a man is beyond me." How stupid could Eddie be, delighting in harassment? He was fetishizing or projecting or something. An ethical person would not straddle a line in the sand, no matter how imaginary that line may be, and step to the side of man. He drank. He should forget it. Duh, why bother? There were so many ways to be a woman. And yet, shoulders tense, possessed by a lush want, Eddie was convinced that a faggot was a wonderful thing to be. Anthony Dobranski.
Hello. She leads him through stands of sassafras, bright green rounded leaves, yellow flowers, swallowtail butterflies. We grew this, she says, the sassafras, for guests, especially in the fall, spectacular. Artists come up from town for it too. Painters, potters, quilters. You charge them? The artists? Shit, they got no coin. Some bring clients as a class up from Chattanooga and Asheville, so we give them a bunk. Money isn't so, but the guests talk about seeing artists. Over the ridge, the woods are grayer and sparser, beech and hickory and pitch pine. 20 minutes walk to the hollow in the view, she says. That's where my parents were going? They asked directions to it. She outpaces him. She's fitter. He asks questions to slow her. She tells him there are more huts north of the lookout. The working areas are down by the entrance gate. Office, staff bunks, stables, granaries, most built under old trees to keep them shaded. Until a storm downs them, she says. Hard rain, we don't sleep much. She laughs grimly. They crest the next rise and stop. By Jesus and Shiva, she says. The valley is a rust and orange scar hundreds of yards long, only mud and white-gray boulders and 2 downed trees. They walk to the edge, test the fresh dirt. Dry enough. He gingerly walks to the middle. Is this the place? He asks her. Looks the part. You feel them? She goes to mysticism casually, an everyday thing. She's right. They are ash in a local-made urn. Only mysticism brings him here. His own funeral for them. I feel loss, he says. A closing door. Swept and gone. Not even a haunting. And now, Caely McHale.
I'm scared of microphones. Hi. All right, this one's called Two Dog Fire. We measure the heat of a bonfire by how far away from the perimeter a dog will lay. 1 length of a dog's body, 2. Tonight is a 2-dog flame, and the cats are back. When we first moved to the city, I saw stray cats on every corner, cradling mice. Then, a year passed, catless. From my window, I see pairs of cats and mice crawling again from under the wheels of parked cars. Let me tell you a secret. I think my emotions are more animal than human. I am uncomplicated to the degree of a small mammal, ruled by fear, seeking the warmth of the fire, but staying 2 lengths of my body away. I had aimed in my youth to have more interesting motivations. Earlier, I passed by a little girl walking with her mother, or more accurately, being dragged along by her mother, yowling and spitting as she was carried by the scruff of her neck. She cried, voice full of feeling, "You don't have to be sorry, you just have to say yes." I gnaw on this idea like a bone. I am always sorry, and I never say yes. Up next is Javed Jahangir.
I am not Javed. Javed is sick. Yeah, it's sad. But I am living on the sex tonight. I unfortunately don't have sex to offer. Sorry. Not for y'all. My mother stands in the doorway of my father's office behind me, watching me take in the scene, bracing herself for my reaction. A dormant desktop computer squats on my father's desk, facing a wall of boarded windows. Across from the desk are skinny cabinet doors that hide peeling shelf liners of red cherry pears and bright green apples. Dust floats along the sour lamplight, writhing in organism-like blobs, twisting, breaking apart and reforming themselves in the silence. The room is a long corridor the length of the house. When I lived here briefly 18 years ago, it was called the sunroom. My parents moved in right before I left for college, and they hung an indoor porch swing facing the large windows, envisioning themselves drinking lemonade as they swayed gently through their retirement. At the other end of the room are shallow shelves that hold our extensive VHS library, the one my father pirated throughout my childhood and that I alphabetized for him before I left. Now they serve as an illusion, a husk over the hidden corridors of my father's fear. Behind them I will discover 20 sealed 5-gallon buckets stacked taller than me, each one full of legions of a different color dried bean or rice, and buried in each undulating hoard rolls of silver coins or bundles of bullets. I turned back to the cabinets I must have plundered the last time my siblings and I agreed to stay here for Christmas before it became intolerable. I opened the skinny doors and scanned the battalions of bottles, cans, jars, and individual bags stamped with faded labels of red ripe tomatoes, hand-scribbled notes, and forgotten dates. 18 cans of great value chicken chunks, 35 cans of Wild Planet sockeye salmon, 23 cans of bone-in, skin-on sardines. There are jars of fruit with labels in my father's slant cursive, prunes with potassium sorbate, organic sun-dried figs, and tomatoes in juice, whole or diced or crushed. There is an entire shelf dedicated to Grandma's original molasses, one for jumbo canisters of coconut oil, and another for handles of pure maple syrup. He really thought the world was going to end. I hear my mother's voice behind me. If you think about it that way, it makes sense. Amanda Shaw. Okay, you might want to leave if you haven't watched The Last of Us, the last episode. It's a big spoiler here. I'm serious, go for it. This is called I've Seen This One Before. From the airport TV, I learned that refugees fleeing bombs with little notice will grab cat food and stuffed animals stuffed in turn in a shopping bag. The woman on screen says her sister took lipstick, face cream, and nail polish, but not acetone. The camera pans a plastic bag in the bloody snow. They cut to commercial. Ads from childhood get stuck in your head. Plaque brings on the cavity creeps, and then the dentist's metal tools. In real life, doctors don't know how to scrape out the plaque caking up synapses in my brother's brain. No matter how often you brush your teeth, it shows up on the computer in patches of murky white. I knew a girl in a commercial for air freshener whose line was, "Now it smells like fish and roses." She was good at sour faces in real life, too. People usually just say fish, but there are fish that taste like fish and fish that taste like what they were in the sea. I'll take the fish means whitefish like cod or haddock, which fishermen toss onto the deck when they're still small enough that the waiter can bring you the entire body on the plate. But Amazon describes Finding Nemo as a heartwarming story about a father who'll do anything to find his son. Actors play fathers on TV, and I get confused. Mark Ruffalo was my father. Steve Carell was my father. Pedro Pascal was my father. Fucking John Cena as a firefighter was my father. Roger Sterling too, but that was just in a dream. Some lists of the best TV dads still include Bill Cosby, and Pedro Pascal keeps dying, this time in a snowstorm. Snow is what they used to call what came on screen when a satellite was down. I saw snow in New York one September day as bits of memoranda floating down. Then back in Brooklyn on a screen. It's black and white and buzzing in my brain decades later, and I'm bored of hearing about it too. Grief is recursive. Grief gets stuck in your head. I wanted a father back then, but I can't tell if I do anymore. Pedro's gone.
And who knows how long we'll even have TV. You wake up and wake up. Okay. Have to do it. Leeya Mehta. You'll find out.
I'm surprised how many of you are still here. This means it's a good one, right? Yeah. Don't time me yet. I want to say that give to be in the loop. I can say that, right? Yep. It's giving. I'm reading nonfiction. The Day After, Searching for Language for Another Lost Generation. As a college student in India, I was struck by the idea of the lost generation, exhausted by the words of their predecessors, the cost of war. Gertrude Stein had possibly borrowed this disparaging term from a French garage owner to describe Ernest Hemingway and his hard-drinking buddies. You're all a lost generation, Stein said in an epigram featured in Hemingway's The Sun Also Rises. Below the epigram, Hemingway then quotes the Ecclesiastes, "One generation passeth away, and another generation cometh, but the earth abideth forever." It became a term for spiritual alienation. Language too was lost. Words could no longer convey the carnage of the past. History too is an art. So opens the poem, The Muse of History, by Ukrainian-American poet Oksana Maksimchuk. She reads this poem in Virginia on the 3rd anniversary of the Ukraine War. We're surrounded by the pictures and archives of a Charlottesville-based artist, Morgan Ashcombe, whose exhibition is about the recreation of a small town's archive after the public building where the archives were stored burned down. To restore history, what happens the day after history is burned? Is it mythologized, recreated, reformulated? How is it reorganized? Is it valued enough to have public funding? 100 years after the term lost generation was coined, how do we, as the keepers of language, rebirth language that is so burned there is only ash on our tongues? The books burn. The Library of Congress is blitzed in the War of 1812. The British troops take control of the capital city and proceed to burn the President's house and the US Capitol, which then housed the Congressional Library. The library went up in flames. The burning of books under the Nazi regime on May 10, 1933 is perhaps the most famous of book burnings. 7 people died in the Russian attack on the 23rd of May, 2024 at the Factor Druk printing house in Kharkiv, Ukraine. I leave you with a quote by India's first Prime Minister. A moment comes, which comes but rarely in history, when we step out from the old to the new, when an age ends, and when the soul of a nation, long suppressed, finds utterance. And on that note, thank you.